So this is the first day of my 14-day isolation due to COVID exposure, possibly. I'm feeling good, so we're going to get started with the lesson here and jump into Sketchup. So if you forgot how to get there from any blank tab or from any of the Google type apps like Gmail, you can get this little icon here and get to your apps. So you're going to find Sketchup and click on it and let it load. It takes several seconds to load up and gets to the Home tab, which I'll go ahead and... So once SketchUp finally loads up, it should look like something like this. And you'll have just a couple projects that we got started with in the beginning, and then the most recent one, which you should have saved with a different name. Hopefully you can tell the difference between the two. I have two pretty much identical ones. So once to open one, you just simply click on the three dots and then click on open. And it will open up the sketch here. This is where we left off in class on Tuesday. So first thing we're going to learn is a new tool. We're going to find the tape measure tool. So a tape measure is used just simply as a reference. So it's not a line. You're not going to be drawing a shape with this tool. You're going to be basically using it to make reference lines. So as I'm instructing, I have a little sheet here with the instructions. I can't memorize all the different measurements, so we're going to create some guidelines 2 feet over from each edge and 3 feet up. So the key dimensions here are 2 feet from the side and 3 feet from the bottom. So each side has an edge on the front. We're looking at the front here where the door is, and you want to scroll over until your tape measure says on edge. So I could click anywhere along this edge and get a measurement. So I'm going to click here, just click and release. You don't hold down the mouse button, you just click and release. And then you can move this guideline back and forth. And we need this one to be 2 feet from the edge. So we're going to go ahead and type that in, 2 and then the apostrophe, and then enter. So we've done one from the right edge. Let's go ahead and move over to the left edge. Same thing, 2 feet, enter. I'm going to pause just to make sure that you've had enough time to do that. So if you need to pause your video, go ahead and do that now and get these 2 guidelines from each side. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do is get the guideline from the bottom up. And this is a little bit tricky because if you were to click this bottom edge, it would actually stick out farther than the edge that you have here. So let me just do that for example. You are not going to do this step. I'm just showing you the wrong way to do it. So if I click here and then make a guideline here at 3 feet, it may seem like these two intersect, but in fact, well, maybe they do. No, they don't. See, they don't actually intersect. This one is just well, it's actually 3 inches away because our trim is 3 inches. So these 2 guidelines don't intersect. And what we're trying to do is make an intersect point in our drawing that we can use as a snapping point for a rectangle. That's our goal. So I'm just going to undo that step, and undo is your friend. You are going to make mistakes, so just get familiar with these buttons. One is an undo and one is a redo. So I'm going to undo that step and get rid of that guideline. This time I'm going to go from the space in between the door and the trim. So on this edge, and then go up 3 feet. 3 apostrophe enter. Alright, now that we have our guidelines, and there's an intersect point here, and there's also an intersect point over here, we're going to use that as the starting point for our rectangle for our windows. So our windows are a specific dimension, 8 feet by 4 feet. So I'm going to be using the rectangle tool, which is over here, and then make sure that I am on the correct face. So you want to be on the front face, and I'll start here with this. So I'm going to click at the intersect point to start my rectangle. Just click and release, and then drag away from that point of origin and drag in the direction that I want to make my window. And then I'm just going to release the mouse and type in the dimensions. So it's 8 apostrophe, and then you need a comma to separate the width from the length of the rectangle. So I'm going to go 8 apostrophe comma 4 apostrophe. So that's 8 feet by 4 feet. Then press enter to accept that measurement. So now I have one window over here. I need to make another window on the opposite side. So go ahead and find the intersect point. Click to start the rectangle and drag away in the direction that you want to make the rectangle. And then release the mouse, just try not to bump it. And then type in 8 feet, 8 apostrophe, comma, and then 4 apostrophe for the feet, then enter. So now we have 2 window shapes. Well, they're not really windows yet, and we're going to make them a little bit more fancy. So we are done with these guidelines. We're going to erase those just so they're not interfering with our drawing. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the eraser and just click anywhere on the dotted lines to get rid of them. So click there, and over here, and then over here as well. And then now I'm going to go to my offset tool. So that is found where the push-pull tool is. In this arc, the last tool is the offset tool. So in this one, you want to click on the inside of the boundary that you want to offset. In this situation, we want to click on the inside of this rectangle. Don't worry about the screen tip where it says on edge. That just means this is the shape that we're going, or the edge that we're going to be offsetting. So we're going to click yes, click on the center. And now, so it's just a one click and release. Now you get an adjustable offset. So on the inside I could offset, or on the outside I could offset. We're going to make an inside offset by, I believe it's 3 inches. Yes, 3 inches. So remember, the inch symbol is different from the feet symbol. So you want to make sure that you're going on the inside direction. Then just release your mouse, don't touch it anymore. And we're going to type in the measurement 3 and then the quotation mark for inches. Then press enter. So now we have a nice little outline here for some trim for our window. We're going to do the same over here. So click on anywhere inside the shape and then drag away. And we're going to make sure that we're still on the inside and not on the outside. We're going to offset inside 3 quotation mark, enter. And again, I'll just pause for a moment here to allow you to do that step and then come back. You can pause your video. Alright, we're ready to move on. So this boundary here creates some separation between the face and the window surface itself. So we're going to use this boundary and offset it to make some trim for our window. So we're going to go to the push-pull tool, and we're going to just click and release somewhere inside the bounds of this trim. So click and release, and now it becomes adjustable. Now we want our trim to go outside our building and not inside. So make sure you're in the outside direction, and let's check the measurement. This is a 3-inch trim. So we're going to type in 3 and then the inch symbol, which is the quotation mark, enter. Then I'm going to zoom out and then hold the shift key down. So this is just a review. If you hold the shift key down and then the click wheel, you get the hand tool. Now I can just pan my workspace over with the hand tool. Again, that's holding the shift key down and pressing the click wheel to get the hand tool. Now we're going to go ahead and grab this one with the push-pull. Click one time and release. It becomes adjustable like this. And then just make sure your mouse is pulling it outwards. And then just release your mouse for a second. Type in 3 and then the quotation symbol and then enter. So now we have some nice trim going on here. Alright, looking good. This next part is a little bit complicated. So I'm going to try to go step by step through this, and if you need to, pause, rewind. If your drawing starts to look a little bit different, you can always undo a step and then come back and try again, and hopefully we'll all be on the same page by the end of this video. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do is start creating what's called an awning. So it's something that hangs over a window, usually to help with rain, to just kind of let it drip off away from something. So the awning is going to be starting with a guideline from each edge 1 foot and then 7 feet from the bottom. So we're going to start with the tape measure tool, just like we did with the windows. So again, that's found towards the bottom of the tool column here. Find the tape measure, and we're going to measure 1 foot. So click on the edge and drag in 1 foot. So just type 1 and then the apostrophe, enter. And then from the bottom we're going to go up 7 feet. So again, we want to focus on the edge that is not the trim edge, but the front edge of the building in between the door and the trim. So click here and then drag away, and we're going to type in 7 and then apostrophe, enter. So that placed this line right at the top of our window. So we have an intersect point right here, and we're going to make another intersect point over here by clicking on the edge and making a 1 foot guideline. So 1 foot away from the edge, 1 apostrophe, enter. Alright, I'm going to pan with the hand tool down so I can get my drawing back in the center. And the next thing we want to do is create a rectangle. So now we're down here. Let me scroll down. So a rectangle that is 10 feet by 2 feet. So the rectangle tool, and I'm going to click where the intersection point is. Click one time to start my rectangle and then drag in the direction I want to draw my rectangle. And then just let go of the mouse. So it's a 10 apostrophe and then a comma, then 2 apostrophe. So it's a 10-foot by 2-foot rectangle. Press enter. They're going to do the same thing on the, actually, we are not. We're going to leave this right where it's at. We're going to focus on one rectangle at a time because we're actually just going to copy this over eventually. All right, so the next thing that we're going to do is we've got a rectangle. So the next thing we want to do is make a component out of our rectangle. Now a component is something that you can reuse. It's basically like a drawing inside a drawing. So you're going to be making a specific part inside your drawing. And our awning is going to be that for us. It's going to be a specific kind of a component within our existing drawing. So to make this a component, we're going to use the select tool and click twice on the rectangle. What that does is it selects the face of the rectangle, but it also selects the 4 lines that create the boundary. So each of the 4 edges are also selected. So let me just go ahead and show you the difference. If I click the center, the edges are not selected. Then I'd have to go in and hold the shift key down. Well, that didn't work. So find the edge and try to click on each of these. So a quicker way to do that is to double click inside a shape. So that will select the face of the shape and also the boundaries of the face. So now that we have this selected, we're going to create a component by right-clicking and select from the list Make Component. Now you can name your component whatever you'd like, but this is an awning. So I'm going to call it an awning. And I believe we're going to lock it to a specific plane just so it's easier to work with. I believe it's the horizontal plane. Let's see. Well, we're going to skip that part because I don't think it's really that important. This is a little bit more complicated concept than I want to go over today. So we're just going to glue to none and then click OK. Alright, now we want to actually select our component and get into what I call an edit mode for that component. So to do that, we're just going to click twice on the component itself, and you can tell everything else kind of became a weird color, and our component now is in edit mode. So your screen should look like this. So what we're doing right now is focusing only on our component. Alright, so the first thing we want to do is we're going to push-pull this out by 3 feet. So go ahead and grab the push-pull tool. Pull this out 3 apostrophe. enter. Okay, I forgot a step. So this will be a good practice for us to use the undo arrow at the top. You can also do Control Z, which is a keyboard shortcut for undoing, but I'm going to use that arrow before we do the editing of the component. We want to copy this over. So we got that copy over. Alright, so copy is something that we haven't done before. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the select tool and click anywhere outside my component to get out of that edit mode. So again, just click the select tool, click outside. Your drawing should look like this. What our goal here is to copy this rectangle over to this side. So the first step in copying or moving is kind of thinking ahead. Where do I want to grab this shape? And then where do I want to attach it? So I want to attach it here. So I want to actually grab this corner of this rectangle. And if I grab it from this corner, then I can place it exactly right here. So I'm going to go ahead and click the Move tool, so which is towards the bottom, it's just above the measuring tape. I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to click the bottom of this corner here. If I click over here, I can place it at the intersection. Now that is a move function. That is what the Move tool does. It moves something from one location to the other, and that has left us with a hole. So we don't want to simply move that component over. We want to copy it. So I'm going to undo that. So now we know how the Move tool works. How do we copy? Well, it's very simple. The Move tool can turn into a copy tool simply by clicking on the Control key. So if you noticed, it's very subtle, but on my cursor now there is a little plus symbol in the lower right hand corner of the Move tool. If I press Control again, that plus symbol goes away. Now it's just the Move tool. So Control toggles copy versus move. So move is the normal tool. Click Control, and now you're in copy mode. So we want to make sure that that plus symbol is there. Now we're going to go back to our rectangle, which is actually a component. I'm going to click in the lower left hand corner, right at the corner. Now I've made a copy, and if you need to, you can scroll, you can zoom out, you can also pan while you're doing the copy by holding the Shift key down and then clicking on the click wheel. Not a problem. And then zoom in where you want to place it to make sure you get right where that intersection point is. So I'm just looking for that intersection screen tip. So click there, and now you've successfully copied a component over. So you might be thinking, well, why didn't I just draw a new rectangle there? Well, this is all going to make sense in just a moment. So now let's go ahead and do the next step, which we already kind of previewed. We're going to double click one of our components, doesn't matter which one, and get into edit mode. And then we're going to go back to that push-pull tool, click on it, and notice what happens. Even though I am only in edit mode on one of the components, since we made a copy of the component, we're actually modifying both of them together. So it's cutting our work in half. So I'm going to push-pull this out 3 apostrophe, enter, so for a 3-foot extrusion there. Now next in this, on the left face, we're going to use the arc. So the arc tool is something we haven't used yet. So I'm going to go back to my drawing here. And on the left face, you could do either face, but it just happens to be easier. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and do the right face. So I'm going to orbit around so I can see this face here. And we're going to use the arc tool, which is this one here. And we want to use there's a few different ways to draw an arc. You want to do the one that is a 3-point arc. So let me make sure that's correct. So we want to do the top, alright, let's go ahead and focus on that left face because the directions will be easier if we do that. So we're going to go ahead and draw the 3-point. So we want to do each of the corners, starting with the upper left and then the lower right. And then we want to make an arc I'm going to make sure that this is on the face, so I need to zoom in a little bit. Okay, so this isn't the right arc. So this is a good lesson on something that happens sometimes. So if you're ever in a drawing command and it's not doing what you want it to do, you can simply escape out of that. So you're going to use the escape button. I meant to do that. I really wanted to teach you how to use the escape button. That's why I made that mistake. So let's just try the regular arc. That doesn't look right either. We're going to use the 2-point arc. That's the one we want, I'm sure of it. So we're going to go in the upper left-hand corner and then the lower right-hand corner. Yes, this is the one we want. And then we can specify the distance that we're going to arc this line. So it was a straight line. The 3rd point is how far on this face do we want to arc this line. And that measurement, I believe, is 6 inches. Yes, it is. So we want to create an arc that is 6 inches away from a straight line. So I just kind of moved my mouse in the direction I want the arc to go, and then type in 6 and the quotation mark. Enter. So this is a little bit tricky. If you need to redo it, go ahead and click the undo button and try again. So I'll do that for you. I'll show you another example. So click in the upper left-hand corner, lower right-hand corner, and then up on face 6 inches, 6 quotation mark, enter. All right, now we're going to actually trim the outside of our arc from this solid cube that we've got going on here. So we're going to use the push-pull tool to do that. So I'm going to grab it and select the outer section outside the arc and just pull that all the way back to the edge, and it disappears. So now we have a nice awning here. Alright, I think that's about all we're going to have time for today. So we're going to end there. Hopefully you were successful getting to this point. What I'm going to do is make sure that this is saved. I'm going to just use the select tool and click anywhere outside my component to view my nice progress here. And then make sure I click on that save button.